This video is dedicated to laying out the fundamentals of becoming a better defensive player and the techniques involved. For coaches, if you work your players in the items that we're going to emphasize here, it's almost guaranteed they'll become better defenders. Some of the concepts are very simple. Some of them will take a lot of work and are relatively advanced. This concept is very simple, and that being how you hold your hands when you're passing the ball. As you see here, as we advance this frame, the heels of the hands are together, the thumbs are parallel and together. And so often you see a wide variety of hand positions, and it's very important that the heels are together and the thumbs are together when you're forearm passing the ball. In this next clip, we're going to focus on posture. And so often you hear inside of a defensive practice, the coaches want the players to get down low on defense. And that's partially true. The thing that you have to be aware of is proper posture. And one of the things, as I stop this here, and we're going to go to a key position clip, is when we say down low, it doesn't mean that you bend over at the waist so your head's low. The thing that I would really emphasize when we're teaching proper defense is bend the ankles. As you see here, the ankles are bent. It's not so much the bend comes from the hips. So when they bend the ankle, it drops the knee, drops the hips, but the back, as you can see, stays fairly erect, a ballpark 45-degree angle. As you can also see, the knees are in front of the toes and the head's in front of the knees, so it's a forward lean. And another point of emphasis is the arms are relaxed and bent in front of the body. This will allow the defender to make athletic moves to the ball. And I see so often players run around the court on defense with their arms already extended, and I think this is a mistake. So relax the arms. As you can see, the upper leg and the forearms are pretty much parallel, and then, again, the point of emphasis being bend the ankles. You'll also see when the ball's being played that the forearms and the upper leg or thigh are almost parallel. And again, the back is not bent over. It's in a fairly erect position. And this allows good posture when they're actually playing the ball. So as you can see here, as the player makes the defensive play, the ankles are bent, the head stays level, and the hips drop, which allows the back to stay somewhat erect as the play's being made. Now, as we go to this next clip, a very important concept that when we're playing good defense is the hips are always lower than the ball. So as we stop this, you'll see that we're in a good, ready position. The elbows are bent and relaxed, and we're in that forward lean position that we talked about earlier. And as the ball comes to the defender, the first thing that drops are the ankles, the knees, and the hips. It's not the head, so the head and the upper body stay fairly erect. Okay, so they're always facing the ball, and notice how the hips drop lower than the ball is. So this is exactly what you want to do relative to the defensive posture. As we go to this next clip, it's the same move, and notice how the back stays at a very similar angle, even though it's a low hit ball. The ankles bend, the knees bend, but the upper body doesn't bend over where the upper body is facing the floor. So again, the hips are lower than the ball, and we drop down under the ball as we're playing it. In this next clip, you'll see some of the same things in terms of dropping under the ball, but now we work on redirecting the ball. And as you can see, as the ball is on the forearms, there's a movement with the hips and the upper body to bring the ball back to where they want it to go. And so often where they want it to go isn't where it came from. So it's a very important concept, and it takes a lot of repetition to manage your hips and manage your platform to direct the ball in the proper position. So as we stop this, we'll go frame by frame, where the first thing is we try to step out and get behind the ball. We drop our hips. Notice on contact, we maintain our good triangle with our passing platform. There's no bend at the elbows. And then we kind of pivot and redirect the ball back to our target area. We'll go to this next clip and we'll emphasize how we redirect the ball. And notice I put a passing platform where the forearms will be, and we'll slowly advance this. So there's the triangle. And notice how we redirect the ball, and our passing platform and hips end up facing where they want the ball to go, not where it came from. And again, this is, I think, hopefully a good visual of what you want to be. So we have our passing platform, we've stepped out, we've dropped our hips, and then notice how the hips and platform redirect the ball back to the middle of the court. So it's not good enough to just say, well, angle the ball to your target. That's only partially true. You have to redirect it with your platform, but also your hips and shoulders. And if we stop it when the ball's gone, notice how her shoulders and hips are facing her target area, not where the ball came from. Okay, now in the next clip, we're going to see how we defend a little bit higher ball. So not every ball is going to be hit at our kneecaps. So we have to work on a higher ball to be able to angle our platform back to where we want the ball to go. So notice how we've maintained our passing triangle with our forearms and shoulders, and we've dipped our inside shoulder. And by dipping our inside shoulder, without much movement with our upper body, we're able to angle the ball to the target area. This is the same thing with a little bit higher ball. And again, it's going to be a point of emphasis of how we redirect it, both with our arms. I'll stop it here. So we maintain our passing triangle, which is very important. But that's not good enough. We have to redirect it back. And notice how the hips and shoulders work their way around the ball. And I think this is a very important concept. And we'll kind of go frame by frame here, where the feet go first. And notice how there's very little movement with the hips away from the target area. So big step to the ball, trying to surround the ball with our body. Notice the passing triangle. And then finally, how the ball is being redirected back with the toes, the knees, the hips, the shoulders, pulling the ball back to where you want the ball to finish up with, or your target area. So again, it's not just an arm motion, it's also a hip and body motion. The next thing we're going to focus on is defending a low ball. And what you see here, the first thing that drops, again, is the hips. It's not bending over at the waist and dropping the hands. So the hips go first. I'm going to back this up. So as the ball is coming low, the hips drop. And notice how the upper body stays in literally the same posture as it was where it started. It's the ankles bend, the knees bend, and the hips drop. The thing that we want that needs practice is the idea of scooping under the ball. Notice how the wrists are now curling and the elbows are bending a little bit. And this will allow the ball, your arms to rotate under the ball and get that upward trajectory. And we'll go kind of frame by frame here. Drop the hips first. Notice the wrist break. And this allows you to drop to the floor and get under the ball. Okay, next clip. Same thing going forward. In this, you'll get a great view of hips dropping first. Notice the curl with the wrist and elbows. And then you keep extending forward. So she goes forward and through the ball. And this is where the coaches, I think, have to take a lot of responsibility for the development of the players, is this takes a lot of repetition where the players get used to scooping under the ball and dropping to the floor. And coaches have to be very good at hitting the ball that requires this motion, because you have to do it hundreds and hundreds of times before the players get good at it and get comfortable doing it. If you don't make this move and kind of bend your platform or your forearms under the ball, even if you do play it, it's going to go right back over the net. So you have to scoop under it, curl your wrists and elbows under the ball so it comes up and you can play it on your side. Same concept relative to keeping the ball on your side, but we're expanding our area of coverage, obviously, and going through a rolling motion. And we'll go clip by clip here. First thing we do, I want to emphasize, and these are all common traits, the hips are lower than the ball. So you see where her forearms are when she touches the ball and how her hips are lower. And also notice, to facilitate the hip drop is a long last step. This will get the player down to the floor, lower, and it'll also facilitate dropping the hips. Notice as she keeps extending through the ball, she'll go to the floor and her knee is turned to her body midline. So often the knee is turned away and they flop on their stomach. If you turn to the body midline, you'll land kind of on the side of your leg, which certainly facilitates a prevention of injury and banging your hips on the floor, but also her hips are facing where she wants the ball to go. And again, whether it's a ball hit right at you or in this situation it's more of an emergency play, you want your hips to face where you want the ball to go. And then from that position, you extend your arm and just roll to your back. Now from this position, you can roll over your shoulder or you can roll over the ribs, whatever's most comfortable to the player. In this case, the player is dropping, extending, and rolling over the shoulder. So there's not necessarily a right or wrong. There's going to be a comfort level that the player will gravitate to naturally. Same movement, but it's more of a lateral move now, whereas a big step out, try to go out with two hands as much as possible. Again, the knee rotates to the body midline. Notice how she's landing on the side of her leg. Big extension. Goes to the back. And then from this position, you can roll over your shoulder or your ribs. Again, comfort being the criteria. But the important things are big step, go out with two hands. Get in that position. And then tuck the knee in and go to your back. Next clip, same thing. Big step out, go out with two hands. Notice the extension, and especially notice, again, common theme, rotate the hips back to the middle of the court, and then go to the back with a nice roll. Another defensive move that needs to be practiced a lot is how to play the high ball. And I think at the higher levels, it's awful hard to set a high-speed attack. Players just hit the ball too hard. So as you notice in the insert here, the player's not setting the ball. She's cupping her hands, and the ball is being directed to the target area, but the hands stay together. This allows you to defend a hard-hit ball that's coming high that you can still control. And my fear is that when players try to set hard-hit balls, the ball will just go right through the hands. So again, this takes a lot of repetition, and this is a great warm-up activity where players can just direct the ball in triangles, cupping their hands, making a big surface on the ball, and then directing it to the target area. Last thing is what happens, from my perspective, almost too often on the floor, because players tend to use this move they call a pancake move to make up for lack of foot movement, where potentially they could have just moved their feet to the ball and made an easier play. But as you can see in the insert, the arm's extended, the hand is flat on the floor, and allows the ball to pop up. This is an emergency move where you couldn't get your feet to the floor and you couldn't play it with two hands. But the ideal move, and I think most defensive plays can be made with players moving their feet to the ball and playing with their forearms. So all of these moves require a lot of work and a lot of repetition. So the coaches have to hit balls directly at the player, as you see here. They have to hit the balls where the player has to drop under, a low ball, as you see there. They have to hit balls where the players have to really scoop under the ball and redirect. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of hip and platform management and rotating as you're playing the ball. So as you can see here in this clip that we've went through before, there's where you contact it, but then you follow through and you pull the ball back to your target area. This takes a lot of repetition. You have to work on expanding the range and running through and being comfortable going to the floor. So all these things are very important fundamentals that need to be mastered by players, but it also has to be an area of focus on the coach. And defense and form ball control takes a lot of time. And I think that's why players tend to be weak at it, is we just don't put in the time. So hopefully this video has been beneficial in terms of emphasizing, hand position, ankle bend, dropping your hips, maintaining a good upper body posture, keeping the head level.